Now, before we talk about why it is, we probably need to step back a little bit and talk about why we're talking about this at all, because I really want to have a discussion about the way that women and girls are represented in children's media. And I want to focus on children's media specifically because you can make an argument that when an adult goes to see a movie, that adult can, criticize it, and they don't have to agree with anything or everything. That they can say, well, yeah, that's how it is in the movies, but that's not how it is in real life. And you can argue that adults can parse things, but children can't. Children are still learning the rules of the world, and they're not as critical about what the rules of the world are. And so if they're presented over and over again that the rules of the world are like this and the world functions like this, they can't always step back and say, well, no, it's not really, and I can be different. They will accept often that, sure, that's how the world is, because they're in a learning stage. Media for them is especially important, and the effect it has in analyzing it is more important than with other kinds of movies. Now, because I want to talk specifically about children's media, we're going to go ahead and simplify the discussion, and we're going to make this discussion specifically about Western animated media. And the reason we're doing that is because in Western animated media, it's the easiest to tell the difference between what is a kid's movie and what is a movie for adults. Live action media from the West, you can have movies like Thor or some of the Harry Potter movies where it's questionable exactly what age group they were intended for. And similarly with Eastern animated movies, especially anime and things from Japan, it's harder to tell, well, was this meant for children or not? With Western animated movies, it's generally either a children's movie or really overtly adult. It's something like South Park or The Simpsons, and the whole point is that they're using a children's medium to do something incredibly adult. So we don't have to have the discussion anymore of, well, was this really intended to be watched by 8-year-olds? It was. Alright, so we've narrowed the scope down to being really specifically about animation. And now that we've done that, let's go ahead and narrow the scope again, because a lot of times when we have this discussion about women being represented, a whole lot of movies get brought up, like The Little Mermaid and Sleeping Beauty, and movies that were 20 years ago, 13 years ago, 60 years ago. And I don't want to talk about the whole history of animation, though the whole history of animation is actually pretty dire as well. I'm really worried about what our kids are experiencing today. Before we can take a look at how women are represented, first I want to take a look at how often women are represented, and specifically how often women get to be the hero, the audience identifier, the protagonist of the story. So we're just gonna, since we're focusing on Millennium now, the movies that were made for today's children, we're just gonna count